From a handful of colonies on the Atlantic coast to a global superpower, America's story is one of invention, conflict, migration, and reinvention. Today, we travel across time, looking at how the United States began, how it transformed, and what it looks like now. This is America, then and now. The story begins long before independence, with indigenous nations who lived on the continent for millennia. European contact in the 15th to 17th centuries introduced new people, diseases, trade, and conflict. English, Spanish, French, Dutch colonies developed different economies and cultures. Here is short information about indigenous societies. Long before European settlers arrived, the American continent was home to millions of indigenous peoples. Diverse, sophisticated societies with rich cultures, languages, and traditions. They lived in complex communities, ranging from nomadic tribes to large agricultural civilizations. Many developed advanced systems of farming, governance, trade, storytelling, astronomy, medicine, and land stewardship. These societies were not simple or primitive. They were highly adapted, resilient, and deeply rooted in their surroundings. Their cultural heritage continues to inspire and shape America, even today. The first permanent English settlement in North America is Jamestown. It survived through tobacco farming and trade. Plymouth became known for cooperation with local indigenous peoples and the early foundations of self-governance. New France, established by the French along the St. Lawrence River and Great Lakes. New France thrived through fur trading, alliances with indigenous nations, and Catholic missions. From the 1600s to the 1800s, millions of Africans were forcibly taken across the Atlantic in the brutal slave trade. Many were sold into labor on plantations in the American South, where they worked under harsh conditions, growing crops like tobacco, rice, and cotton. Their knowledge, strength, and culture shaped America's economy, and their suffering remains one of the darkest chapters in U.S. history. Colonial America had a mixed economy. Most families relied on small-scale farming, growing crops for their own use. Coastal towns developed busy trade networks, moving goods like timber, sugar, rum, and furs across the Atlantic. The British Empire followed mercantilism, a system where colonies produced raw materials and Britain controlled trade, ensuring wealth flowed back to the mother country. Chapter 2: Nation Building and Expansion. After independence came a century of expansion. The U.S. doubled and tripled in size. The Louisiana Purchase, westward migration, and the idea of manifest destiny pushed a frontier ever westward. Now let's talk about America's Industrial Revolution. Factory, mills, railways, roads, telegraphs, political compromises, and last, the Civil War. First is Industrial Revolution in America. During the early 1800s, America entered the Industrial Revolution. The Lowell Mills in Massachusetts became famous for their large textile factories powered by water and later steam. Young women, known as Lowell Mill Girls, worked long hours but played an important role in early industrial labor movements. This era transformed the U.S. from a rural farming society into a manufacturing nation. Second is rail, roads, and telegraph for rapid connectivity. Rail and roads spread across the country in the mid-1800s, connecting cities, farms, and distant regions like never before. Trains allowed faster travel and transport of goods, helping the economy grow. The telegraph revolutionized communication, by sending messages across long distances in minutes instead of days. Together, railroads and telegraph lines made America more connected and modern. Third is slavery grows. Political compromises, regional economies clash. As the nation expanded westward, the North and South increasingly disagreed over whether new states should allow slavery. Political compromises like the Missouri Compromise and Compromise of 1850 tried to calm tensions, but conflict continued. The North's industrial economy and the South's plantation system created deep differences, making slavery a central and unavoidable issue in American politics. Fourth is the Civil War, abolition of slavery and Reconstruction. The Civil War, 1861 to 1865, erupted when Southern states seceded from the Union over slavery and states' rights. The Union's victory ended slavery nationwide through the Emancipation Proclamation and the 13th Amendment. After the war, Reconstruction attempted to rebuild the South and secure rights for formerly enslaved people, but it faced resistance and unequal progress. The Civil War remains a defining moment that reshaped the nation. Now we talk about another chapter of America. That is Chapter 3, Industrial Power and Global Conflict, late 1800s to mid-1900s. The late 19th and early 20th centuries turned America into an industrial powerhouse. Massive immigration reshaped cities. Labor movements fought for rights. The country's role on the world stage expanded through 2 world wars. In this era, many immigrants arrived and stayed there. There are 4 parts in this chapter that is Gilded Age and Immigrants, Progressive Era, World War Depression, and last is Post-War Prosperity. First is Gilded Age and Immigrants. Millions of immigrants arrived in America seeking new opportunities. Many settled in crowded tenements, worked long hours in factories, and faced harsh conditions. Labor tensions grew as workers protested for better wages and safety. Events like the Haymarket Riot and Pullman strike showed the rising struggle between labor and industry. Second is Progressive Era and Reform. Reformers known as progressives pushed for major changes. They fought political corruption, demanded antitrust laws, improved food and workplace safety, and expanded democracy through reforms like direct elections and women's suffrage. Third is World War and the Great Depression. The Great Depression hit Americans hard. Banks failed, unemployment soared, and families struggled to survive. The New Deal, led by President Franklin D. Roosevelt, created jobs, regulated banks, and restored hope. During World War II, American industry transformed overnight. Factories produced tanks and planes, and women entered the workforce in record numbers, symbolized by Rosie the Riveter. After victory, the U.S. emerged as a global superpower. And last is post-war prosperity. After World War II, government programs like the GI Bill helped veterans buy homes and attend college. New suburbs spread across America. Highways expanded travel, and the baby boom reshaped family life, creating an era of rapid growth and optimism. Now, next is Chapter 4, Social Changes and Turbulence, in which we talk about how socially America developed with different cultures with different people. The decades after World War II combined prosperity with intense social change. The Civil Rights Movement challenged segregation. The Cold War shaped foreign policy. Cold War with Korea, Vietnam, China, with nuclear race, space race, and culminating moon landing. Cultural revolutions, music, film, youth movements reshaped norms. Also, rise of personal computing, early internet, Wall Street shifts, All those incidents made America a global superpower. Late 20th century technology and globalization. The rise of personal computers, microprocessors, early mobile phones, cable television, and the internet transformed how people worked, communicated, and learned. Silicon Valley became a hub of rapid innovation, giving birth to tech giants. At the same time, globalization accelerated. Advances in shipping, aviation, and communication connected markets worldwide. Trade agreements, multinational corporations, and global supply chains brought international goods to American homes while expanding U.S. influence abroad. Let's talk about biggest achievement of USA. On July 20th, 1969, the United States achieved one of the greatest milestones in human history, the Apollo 11 moon landing. After years of scientific research, engineering breakthroughs, and intense Cold War competition, NASA successfully sent astronauts Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins to the moon. Now, talk about another chapter that is Chapter 5, the new millennium, tech, economy, and polarization from 2000s to 2010s. The 21st century opened with new vulnerabilities and new tools. Terrorism, economic shocks, and the internet reshaped national life. Technology connected people instantly, changing politics, business, and culture. But it also multiplied inequality and altered the public square. In 2001, biggest terrorist attack happened, that is 9/11. September 11th, 2001. Coordinated terrorist attacks struck the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, causing nearly 3,000 deaths. In response, the U.S. launched the War on Terror, beginning with the war in Afghanistan and later the Iraq War. These events changed American foreign policy, public life, and national conversations about safety, privacy, and global conflict. In the 2008 financial crisis began with a collapse in the housing market due to risky mortgages, inflated home prices, and failing banks. When major institutions like Lehman Brothers fell, the economy entered a deep recession. Millions lost jobs, homes, and savings. The U.S. government responded with bailouts, stimulus programs, and new financial regulations to stabilize markets and restart growth. Rise of tech giants and social media of USA. In the 2010s, companies like Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, and Microsoft transformed daily life. Smartphones, cloud computing, and social media reshaped communication, entertainment, shopping, and work. Next is political polarization in America. In recent decades, Americans have become increasingly divided along political, cultural, and economic lines. News, online media, and social media algorithms often amplify conflict, while economic anxieties and cultural changes deepen disagreements. Now talk about America in 2020s. Chapter 6. Today. What now looks like. Now, in recent years, the U.S. has faced a pandemic, renewed debates about racial justice, and accelerating climate impacts. At the same time, new technologies, shifting demographics, and changing work patterns are reshaping opportunity. Number 1. COVID-19 pandemic. Health, economic, and social effects. The pandemic, beginning in 2020, brought major health, economic, and social challenges. Hospitals faced overwhelming pressure, and daily life changed as lockdowns, social distancing, and masks became common. Thousands of people all over the world die cause of pandemic. Second is racial justice movement. In 2020, The death of George Floyd sparked nationwide and global protests, calling for racial justice, policing reform, and greater accountability. This period became a broader moment of reflection about civil rights, systemic issues, and equality in American institutions. Third is economy and labor. Gig work, remote work, wage debates. The American workforce has shifted dramatically. Gig platforms, rideshare, delivery services, freelance apps created flexible but uncertain jobs. Remote work became more common, changing office culture and expectations. Fourth is technology and AI. New tools and automation concerns. Advances in artificial intelligence, robotics, smartphones, and automation transformed how people create, learn, and do business. AI tools assist with writing, art, logistics, data analysis, and many more. Fifth is climate changes and environment. Climate change brought more frequent wildfires, hurricanes, floods, and heat waves. These events pushed governments, communities, and companies to focus on renewable energy, environmental policy, and sustainability. Now we discuss about some interesting points of American history which increases power of America. First is Detroit. Boom, bust, and reinvention. Detroit rose in the early 20th century as the center of America's automobile industry, powered by companies like Ford, GM, and Chrysler. These factories created millions of jobs and helped build America's middle class. Detroit became a symbol of deindustrialization and urban hardship. In recent years, new small businesses, tech hubs, and community-led projects aiming to rebuild the city's future. Second is Silicon Valley and the tech economy. Silicon Valley began as a cluster of defense labs and university research near Stanford. Rise of semiconductors in the 1960s and personal computers in the 1980s, it grew into the world's most important center for technology and innovation. Today, it is home to major companies developing software, smartphones, AI, social media, and cloud computing. Now we talk about the Sun Belt migration since the 1970s. Millions of Americans have moved from the Northeast and Midwest to the Sun Belt. States like Texas, Florida, Arizona, Nevada, and the Carolinas. People are drawn by warmer weather, affordable housing, job growth, and lower taxes. This migration has transformed cities like Phoenix, Austin, Orlando, and Charlotte into major economic centers. From colonial settlements to a high-tech, globally connected nation, America's story is not a single line of progress. It's a complex mix of innovation, injustice, conflict, and creativity. The then helps us understand the now, and the now asks new questions about what kind of future Americans want to build. History doesn't end. It's written every day by policy choices, social movements, and the decisions we make as communities. Understanding the past isn't nostalgia, it's a tool. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell. What part of America's story surprised you most? Tell us in the comments. Thank you for watching. See you next time.